Hello, Cherries fans, and welcome to another edition of our weekly podcast, Cherry Picking. This week, joined by, down at the bottom there, Mr. Samuel Harrison. How you doing, Sam? You all right?
Hello, mate. I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good, buddy. And we're welcoming back, after a few weeks away, the Dorset Picker, Mr. Rawlings. And he's got a little friend with him.
Hello, Matt. All right? You guys all right?
Yeah, we're all good, buddy.
Yeah, we got Poppy with us. Say hi, Poppy.
Hello, Poppy. There she is. A little Cherries fan there.
There we go.
Cool. Okay, so before we get started, let's have a little message from our sponsors, Dental on the Banks. And to see what they can do for you, go on to dentalonthebanks.co.uk. Right, so obviously it's been a turbulent start to the week, obviously with Scott Parker's dismissal. But before we touch on that and get Chris's views on Scott Parker, let's have a look at the transfer window. So obviously Bournemouth only made the one signing yesterday in Jack Stevens from Southampton, and we let a couple of players go out on loan as well. Let's start with you, Chris. What have you thought on the transfer window as a whole?
There's been good bits and bad bits. Obviously, the centre back from Feyenoord, I thought it was a good signing. And Tavernier, I think he's hit the ground running. I think he's been decent. I like the look of him. Probably he's exceeded my expectation, to be honest. Like the other guys, we haven't really seen enough of him. Neto's been good, but we knew he'd be all right because he's come from Barcelona, But obviously Fredericks, we haven't seen, he played a few minutes yesterday, and we haven't seen anything of Rothwell yet. And, Stevens, I'm not too sure about. I know a few Southampton fans, and they weren't sure about him, so I'm just going to leave it as a, open book, unsure about until I get to see him myself,
Yeah. Sam, what's your thoughts on Jack Stevens?
At the end of the day, if we're in the Championship with the squad we got and signing someone like Jack Stevens, we think, okay, it's adding to the quality of the squad. But being in the Premier League, obviously, it's not really good enough. But with the current situation, no manager, an interim, there's not really much more we were going to do anyway. So we've just got to pull together now and go from there.
Yeah.
Any sort of transfers that other clubs have made standing out for either of you? Obviously, it looks like United have just signed Anthony for Ajax for some ridiculous fee, about 86 million. Who would you say overall in the transfer window done the best business?
Well, I don't know about the best business, but I think Forest have gone berserk. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen a window where they're just buying everybody. I mean, not their squad wasn't that bad. I mean, their squad was not much different to ours on player for positions. I think they probably needed a few players, like we needed a few players. But I think they've gone mad. If somehow they go down, they'll be in big trouble because the wages they're paying must be through the roof. I know they're paying Lingard 200 grand. God knows what they're paying the other people. And if I think it's madness. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Forest one's a funny one, isn't it? Because I mean, we've seen teams come up into the Premier League and spend money like that before, and it's kind of backfired. And obviously, then you've seen teams not cope after the parachute payments, and eventually, what happens. Before you know it, you got clubs in League Two, pretty big clubs, like the likes of Pompey, and obviously Sunderland have felt over the last sort of 10 years or so. So I think Forest are taking a bit of a gamble. Definitely taking a bit of a gamble. If it pays off, then obviously it will keep them in the league, and next year they'll have a even bigger windfall, and obviously it looks like they're trying and grow from there. Sam, what for you? Who's done the best business?
Obviously, not again. Forest have brought in the most amount of players, so they've obviously. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the best though, because like Chris said, at the end of the day, if they go down, they'll be in deep trouble, especially with the wage bill. One move I've liked that's come out recently was Aubameyang's gone to Chelsea from Barcelona. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Arsenal fans say on Arsenal Fans TV later.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Obviously that's a big transfer. I mean, for me personally, I think Arsenal have done the best transfer dealings really in the window in terms to the quality they've added. Obviously the amount of players, obviously that's Forest. But I mean, the likes of Fulham haven't had a bad window. It just seems that with our club's philosophy, it looks like that we want to make sure the club's stable and concentrate on the actual infrastructure rather than spending millions in the transfer window. So with the transfer window now shut, have we got a squad that can stay in the Premier League?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I'd like to think we can now that the negativity maybe is gone from the club. Obviously we got a decent result the other night. I must admit I didn't think we would get anything out of that after the bad result over the weekend, but obviously we showed we pulled together and we got something out of that game. A draw after that result of the weekend is almost as good as a win in my mind. A clean sheet after a 9-0 defeat is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that is a very, very good point. Sam, what do you think?
For me, as we all know, at the end of the day, as Parker was being negative about before he left, we haven't got the strongest of sides, and all we can do now is pull together and try and pull out some results. Yesterday, they showed again that they can play a bit better football, and I think we will improve. But yeah, all we can do now is pull together.
The thing with this, we haven't got the strongest of sides, though. I can't get my head around this because last season we had arguably the strongest side in the Championship. Yeah, I think our side was obviously stronger than Fulham. Yeah. I think us three could have probably got our squad out of the Championship. Do you know what I mean? Parker didn't really perform miracles. I mean, any manager with any kind of skill set should have got that squad out of the Championship, really. And then to come out, anybody that sort of says we haven't got the squad we've got should be able to, if you play them in the right position, in the right formation, and give them enough morale, they should be able to compete. I don't think the squad is that bad. He's making out as if we've got a bunch of League Two players.
I mean, it's a good point you make there, because I mean, obviously when Parker come in, really he inherited the squad really that went on to win the first sort of 15 games and remain undefeated for that length of time. It was only really when it got to January that he made a real impact in the transfer market and in terms of bringing his own bodies into the club. And then for me, sort of after Christmas, I thought we were very quite poor at times. To be fair, you wouldn't think we were challenging at the top. So in that case, for me, he kind of inherited the squad that did most of the work. Back on it now,
definitely.
So as we just touched on, Mr. Parker, and obviously you haven't been on for a little while, Chris. So what's your views on the dismissal?
Yeah, well, I think he had to go really because all of his press conferences recently have all been on the negative side, and you can't, regardless of the result at Liverpool, you can't come out and speak like the way he was about the team and the club. Who comes out after an interview and says we need help? We need help. I mean, he said that like 4 times in that interview. I mean, he's basically saying that the team we've got are rubbish and that like we're going to get battered every game unless the club stick their hand in their pockets. He's got to do what he can with what he's got. And get on with it. I mean, we've had some bad managers, we've had a couple of bad managers and we've had some really good managers in our time, but we've never had any of them saying that, and they've had less to work with.
Yeah, shoestrings.
We've had managers that have had transfer embargoes and we've had to put assistant managers on the bench, kids on the bench. Do you know what I mean? And we've got results. He can't go around saying that we've. Do you know what I mean? He had to go. I wasn't overly keen on the appointment of him in the first place. And as I've just said, anybody with any ounce of managerial skills could have got us out of that league. I mean, I personally thought Jonathan Woodgate did a good job when we had him. I think if we'd had him for the whole of that season, we probably would have gone out that season. Tyndall didn't do a great job, did he? Let's be honest.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, I personally think everybody online sort of says that we did the wrong thing, get rid of Parker, and said we got rid of him just because we lost to the top 3 teams. But we got rid of him because he opened his mouth and he couldn't work for the owners.
Do you think he was disillusioned? Because I mean, surely at the end of the season, you've gone up. The board and him would have had a meeting. They would have set out what they wanted to do for next season. So surely he would have known what budget he would have been working with.
Yeah, but maybe he was disillusioned. But you only have to know a bit about Bournemouth and the history of Bournemouth, and even like our first year in the Premier League. Like when the first season we went into the Premier League the first time, we didn't spend a great deal of money. We spent like 7.5 on Mings. We spent about 5 mil or something on Gradle, but we didn't spend a great deal of money on the first season, did we? It was all about consolidating that first season, wasn't it? So, and we signed Josh King on like £1 million in a tribunal. Yeah. We spent no money. So I think that's what the plan was this season: spend no money, try and sort of fluke it, as you like, staying up with what we've got. And Eddie Howe did that the first season. He got the team to play as they did, and like fight for each other. Whereas Parker just come out and said, well, we haven't got the players. If we don't get any players, we're going to get dropped every week.
I think Parker's looked at Nottingham Forest, hasn't he? And he's seeing them paying out and buying all these players, and he's thinking, why aren't we? We need.
Yeah, but they're a massive team, aren't they? Bournemouth are little old Bournemouth. We're little old Bournemouth. He's only got to look at the history. We almost went bust about 5 times in the last 30 years. I mean, it's got to do you know what I mean? I think he had to go. Do you know what I mean? They did the right thing getting rid of him in my mind.
Yeah, I think, I mean, after the recent results, I mean, and we were just saying on Monday night that we were willing to still back Parker because, you're playing against 3 of the top teams in the country. They're kind of bonus points if you get any points against those kind of clubs. So, he's, as we all know now that, he wasn't obviously sacked on results. He was sacked on not really keeping to the club's agenda and being negative towards the club and towards the players in the media. So unfortunately, that's the end of Scott, and that's that really, isn't it?
Yeah, you back the team, you back the manager, you support the team, you support the manager, but and I understand we played the 3 of the best teams, but I know we're not realistically going to get any results there, but do you know what I mean? To lose 9-0, I mean, I know you guys were there. Like, we were lucky to lose 9-0 realistically, weren't we? It could have been 13. 13. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is unacceptable. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, you're absolutely right.
Most League One teams wouldn't lose 9-0 at Anfield, would they?
Yeah, it's like we were saying when we did the free for all for the Liverpool game. We were sitting there, and I think I made the point where basically, no matter what manager you are, what league you're in, or who you've played. You know, every manager's got to kind of take a step back and look at themselves if they've been hammered 9-0.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it is an unacceptable, you know, scoreline. Obviously, Liverpool, as we all know, always close to getting to the Champions League final in the last few years and even won it. You know, we know that they're always neck and neck with City at the top of the league. So, you know, we know what Liverpool are all about. But, you know, I mean...
They started this season poorly, Liverpool, and I did fear going into this weekend that we might be on the receiving end of a backlash, like 3-0, 4-0, like similar to Man City, you know.
Yeah.
But when you go 2-0 down after 6 minutes, you know it's going to be a long day.
Yeah, I mean, it was a case that a fan said to me this week. He said, I looked at the results at half time and saw that we were 5-0. He said, I assumed we kicked off at lunchtime and that was the full-time result. So, yeah, you know, I mean, it was an interesting day.
Yeah.
Lovely people up there, really was. You know,
fair play.
Some lovely fans up there. And but obviously the result wasn't the greatest, really, was it? But let's move on from that. Let's look at something more positive now. Obviously,
yeah, definitely.
You know, we've got your views on Parker, Chris, which is all good, and you know, Sam's given his views throughout the week. Let's look at something more positive. Wednesday night's performance against Wolves at Dean Court. Obviously, I think we all probably would have took a point before the game after the previous weekend. But I thought we saw a much together side, a much more side, you know, a side that was more up for the fight.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, some of the tackles that were flying in, you know, the passion that was there. For me, it just looked like a side that had just been regenerated a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, a Wolves side that we were playing, we all know what Wolves can do. You know, they have been really poor in front of goal for a little while now, and that did demonstrate on Wednesday night. You know, there was a couple of sitters really they should have finished. But overall, from our perspective, dropping Travers, do we think that was the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do? Because it's like I was saying to Mark Crossley earlier on in the week, it's very, very easy to blame the goalkeeper. And like Mark actually said, he said, you know, from seeing some of the goals, you know, was he at fault for any of them and this, that, and the other? I questioned confidence. Obviously, Travs is a young keeper. Like I've said before, will have a fantastic career ahead of him. But it's just the confidence for me. And I think that is probably why Gary O'Neill made that change. But what's your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't think he was dropped as such. I think he was maybe just taken out of the pressure situation for a little while. Yeah. Just like because, you know, he shipped a lot of goals, and I don't think any of them particularly are his fault over the last few weeks. I think it's like, you know, he's been playing behind a bit of a weak defence that's been picked apart by good teams, you know?
Yeah.
I just think they maybe just take him out the firing line for a little bit.
Yeah, because I think that if I remember rightly, Gary O'Neill saying after the game that it was done to protect Travs in some respects, which I can see. But obviously, from an interim manager's point of view, you know, you don't know how long you're gonna have the side for. No. You know, you might even chuck your name in the hat for it, you know, if you get some good performances. And I think that, you know, overall it was probably the best decision to do. I thought Neto's performance was extremely strong. I know there was a few times, you know, he punched the ball. A few fans were around us shouting "catch the ball," but these days keepers are in training. Keepers are taught to punch and palm more than they are to catch these days. I think that's just the way the art of goalkeeping has changed. But Sam, what do you think of Neto's performance and Travs being dropped?
Well, with regards to Travers, yeah, I totally agree. It's all to do with confidence. He put in a great performance all last season, got the goalkeeper award for the year. So we can't take that away from him. Like you said, he's got a great future ahead of him. It was the best decision to let him sit back for a bit, get out of the pressure and give Neto a chance. Neto came in and played a good shift. Like you said, he was a tiny bit rusty in a couple of things, but it's expected when he hasn't been playing that much. And you can definitely see the quality he will bring to the club this season.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the punching and like stuff, I think that's also like a thing of like the South American and like some of the sort of like foreign goalkeepers. They tend to like punch rather than catch, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think he had a good shift, you know.
Yeah.
So would he be in the team on Saturday?
I don't think there'll be any changes, like unless it's injuries. I don't think there'll be any changes on Saturday. To be fair, that was a dogged performance. I think they'll stick with that, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of performance you want to go with to the City ground, isn't it?
Yeah.
What did you think in terms of Gary O'Neill's setup? You know, in terms of the formation. Obviously, Parker's been going with kind of three at the back with a wing-back system, hasn't he, since the start of the season, which looked like would be the way how he would play all season against Villa.
Yeah.
But obviously, Gary O'Neill's come in and made a change to the formation as well.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I think we definitely looked better under that, I think. To be fair, it looked a bit more cohesive. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They seemed to set up better, whether or not it's just like because of the opposition we were playing, time will tell. But I didn't like the formation we were playing under Parker this season, to be fair. We should have just been playing what we were playing last season. Yeah,
I mean, to be fair, I mean, I was all for the three at the back and the wing-back system, to be honest. I thought it would be... I thought it'd work, to be honest. But obviously, seeing how Gary set the side up last night, it's quite pleasing to see. And, with the likes of Fredericks now being fit, obviously he had some minutes last night. Obviously, Rothwell hopefully coming in soon. We should have some real competition there. I thought last night as well, the likes of Ryan Christie had a really good game. I know he's a favourite of mine, but last night I thought he covered pretty much every blade of grass on that pitch.
Yeah.
What do you think? Who was the standout player for you two Wednesday night?
I thought Christie had a good game, to be honest. I'm not his biggest fan, but I did think yesterday, the other day, he had put in a really good shift. You know, probably one of his better games for a while. To be fair, from my personal opinion, I thought Lloyd Kelly had a good game. To be fair, back. I know he missed on Saturday, but I thought it was good to have him back. Yeah, probably between those two. Lewis Cook was really good, actually, wasn't he?
Yeah, there's some good flying tackles in.
Yeah, it was a tough one because I think most of the team had a good game the other night. One. I can't really call one standout player. I thought it was a really good performance from a lot of them. So yeah,
Sam, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the majority of players had a good game. Neto coming for his first game played well. Kelly come back and put in a shift. Obviously, had that goal line clearance later in the game. Taverner was playing well as well.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I couldn't really give to one player. I think we were all back as a team, back as a unit, and trying to put in performance to keep us in the league.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I'm glad you touched on Taverner there, because I thought it was, I thought he was having a really good game in the position he started in. A bit like he did against, Villa. But I thought what was really interesting was you could see Fredericks warming up on the touchline, and you thought to yourself, well, who's he going to take off? And when he held the board up for Zamora to come off, I automatically thought, oh well, Smithy would go to the left. He actually dropped Taverner back to left back. And I thought he had and then they brought on Traore, didn't they? And I thought he had a good game at left back. I don't know what you two thought, but I thought he played pretty well there, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought that was strange as well. But yeah, I'm along the same lines as you.
Yeah, I thought I didn't know he could play in that role. I mean, I know his brother's a right back, isn't he, up at Rangers? But I thought, and I looked and I thought, what's he playing in there for? And, he won a few balls. He was still looking at trying to attack as well, and I just thought he had a good performance in that position, to be honest, which was surprising and pleasing at the same time.
Yeah,
it's good to try people out in different places. If they could play, let's see what we got. We've got to use the team we've got now and see who can play where best and find the right formation for us.
Yeah. Also, Kiefer Moore was changed. Obviously, Dom fit again. Do you think that was a good decision? Just bringing Dom back in to lead the line and having Kiefer back on the bench as a kind of an impact player like he was last season, or do you think he should have started?
I think Dom should. I think Dom should always start, to be honest, and Kiefer should. I think Kiefer's better as an impact player, because he played the role so well last season towards the end. I don't think he should necessarily start. Maybe when we do play two up front, but I think we're not often going to play two up front, are we, in this league? I don't think. So I would always have Dom over Kiefer.
Yeah, I agree with that. Dom definitely over Kiefer, but when Kiefer's playing, obviously, I'd rather play Dom just behind Kiefer rather than putting him out on the left, because you could tell he didn't really like playing out there.
Yeah,
No,
a bit like
he's not a winger, is he?
No.
Liverpool. He didn't look too happy out on the left there, did he, when he come on at half time? And that's kind of where he spent most of the game, wasn't it, really? And, someone like Dom wants to be through the middle to get the goals, doesn't he?
Exactly.
One thing from last night, not a great deal of attempts at goal. I think really that'd be sort of my only criticism. But in terms of the rest of the performance, it was a lot more, like you said, Sam, togetherness. There was a lot more fight throughout the whole team yesterday. Hopefully we can take that into the Forest game. Okay, so now that we've dealt with the Wolves game midweek, let's turn our attentions to this weekend coming with the game at the City Ground. Don't forget to check out our pre-match preview with Mark Crossley, which we did earlier on in the week. So we face Forest on Saturday at 3:00. Obviously, which we touched on a little while ago with their signings. They've made, how many signings is it now, Chris?
23.
23 signings. I mean, they've signed some interesting players. I mean, they've had a pretty strong squad anyway, like we've also said. I mean, what it's a difficult one, isn't it? There's a lot of players to gel into a side. I mean, I know a couple of the players they've let go straight out on loan, haven't they, to other clubs and stuff. But I mean, they've signed Bolly from Wolves. They seem to have centre backs coming out of their back pocket. They're going to. I mean, is there going to be any room for Cookie in the team up there? I mean, it's. I mean, they've just gone signing crazy, but
didn't they spend some ridiculous amount of money on that Morgan Gibbs-White, who spent like last season on loan at Sheffield United?
Isn't it? I think Mark Crossley was saying it's about 45 million after all the add-ons are paid, or something like that.
Yeah, he's like the 8th most expensive transfer in England or something.
Is he? He's got like a year left on his contract, and
he's never really established himself in the Premier League.
I mean, he is who Mark Crossley said is the man to watch. I mean, for me, I thought that kind of money was, well, I don't think he would be in that kind of bracket of money, to be honest.
Right.
But obviously we know a few of the players. Obviously we know Surridge and we know Cook. But obviously they've got the likes of Dean Henderson. Obviously he's a fantastic goalkeeper. Where do we go Saturday, boys? What do we do? Do we start the same side, or do we tweak the side, or do we look to go up there for a draw? Do we look to go up there for a win?
I think we start. I think we start the same team that played the other night, and I think we probably set up. We set up probably to, I don't know, not to concede and maybe nick it 1-0 in the second half.
Yeah,
that's what I would do.
Interesting one. So sort of like keep it 0-0 for as long as we can, and maybe go a bit more direct by bringing Kiefer on maybe in the second half later on if it's still 0-0, just to try and get some muscle up top, kind of.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
That kind of your way thought, yeah.
Well, like we did at the home game, like when we went up.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
how do you think that would be? I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because kind of Saturday be kind of a level playing field for us. Both clubs promoted. With all their signings, do you think now that they are obviously going to be stronger than us, but do you think we can go up there and nick a win?
Yeah. I think we can. They're like you said, they've got so many players. They're not going to know how to play with each other yet. I mean, man for man, they're probably better than us, but like they're not going to know. They're not going to know how to suit each other. And like you're saying about Surridge and Cook, there's a good chance that neither of them are going to be in their registered squad by then. So they can only register 25 players.
Well, this is it. If they've signed 23 with what they've already got there, they must have had a load of players leave, surely.
Well, yeah, or going to leave, or just not going to be registered. Who knows?
Yeah, because it's a 25-man squad and they've signed 23 players.
Yeah.
Like I say, I mean, I know they signed, I think, a Korean striker who they loaned straight out to a Greek club.
Yeah.
Is that right? So I know they've signed someone, loaned them straight out, but it just seems for me it's
nuts, isn't it?
It's crazy up there, isn't it? Sam, Forest. Then, what do you reckon? Do we keep the same side? Do we change it? I mean, what would you do?
Yeah, to be honest, I would go with pretty much the same squad we have. I'd like to see a bit more attacking. Bournemouth, as a team, Bournemouth are always best attacking, and we've definitely got the players to do it. I'd like to see a bit more attacking, but yeah, I could definitely see us going up there and minimal get a point. But I think 3 points is vital, really, any game now. So if we went up there and got another point after a 9-0 thrashing, 2 draws, I think anyone would take that and move forward to the next game at home, Brighton next week.
Yeah, no, good point. Score prediction then for Saturday. I mean, it for me, I'm gonna. I mean, on the back of that performance, I'm on Wednesday night. I'm gonna go with. I think I'm gonna go with a Bournemouth win. I think we could nick it. I don't know. I just got a good feeling that we could nick something up there on Saturday, especially with the result against City. They had obviously that might dent some pride in them, but yeah, I'm going to go with a 2-1 Bournemouth.
Fair enough. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
I'm going to say, yeah, I'll go with a 2-1 win Bournemouth as well.
Yeah, okay. Right, so last week we had obviously our mystery player for people to guess. Sam, do you want to run through the clues of the mystery player from last week, and then we can reveal all. Someone weren't ready.
I was debating if you were going to say that, and you did, so I'm going to have to get it back up. Yes, sorry, mate. Hang on. Yeah.
Right. Okay, go on then. Give us the rundown.
Enlighten.
So he started out in the Bournemouth youth, went on to play 56 games between 1995 and 1999 at Bournemouth. He's had his best spells at Havant towards Louisville and Eastleigh, and played at 9 clubs over his career.
Okay, and Mr. Rawlings, do you want to reveal who this mystery player is?
Okay, so he's got to be my childhood favourite, Mr. David Town, yeah?
That's correct.
Okay.
David Town.
Lovely.
That's the name. David Town, hey?
David Town. With his home goal against York and his absolute belter away from home at Notts County.
Notts County, yeah, that was it. So, your memories, Chris, of Towner. Obviously, that was his 2 goals. But why did you like him so much as a kid?
I think it was just his perfectly permed hair.
It was his hair.
He did have really cool, like, permed short hair, didn't he?
He
It was
did.
so curly, wasn't it? And he was really quick.
I remember the times he'd be on the bench and you itching for him to come on, and he just wouldn't come on. They just didn't put him on.
I know. I must have about 25 programs signed by him. Every single program from like 95, 96 is signed by him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I actually dug out a program the other day that's got like a whole like article on him in it. So I was going to show it on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You'll have to get that out for next time.
Yeah.
And also, we did the predictions last week as well.
Are we going to do this week's Guess the Player, or are we doing that later?
Well, we can do it now if you want.
Yeah? Okay. So I'll do it, yeah?
Have you got one?
Okay, cool. Okay, so I was born in 1974. My footballing career started in Scotland. I was Bournemouth in 1996.
Yeah.
I stayed with Bournemouth until 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah. I played 125 league games, scoring 10 league goals.
Yeah.
When I left Bournemouth, I went back over the border, and I retired in 2011. Who am I?
If anyone out there knows who it is, pop it in the comments. It's a bit of an old school one again. I think I know who it is, which I'll have a discussion with Mr. Rawlings after this. But so that's this week's mystery player. Don't Google now, don't cheat. Just put your ideas in the comments on who it could be. And also last week we did our match predictions, didn't we, Sam?
We did indeed.
We did. And have we got a result from that?
Yeah, so you won last week, Matt, with 6 points.
Boom.
Craig comes second with 4, and I was last with 2.
Okay, so let's run down this week's fixtures. So we do 3 from the Premier League, 1 from the Championship, 1 from League 1, 1 from League 2, and then 1 complete random one. And so this week we are going to go with, from the Premier League, Newcastle United versus Palace. Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Southampton. And Brentford versus Leeds United. Our Championship one is going to be Preston North End versus Birmingham City. Our League One is Forest Green Rovers versus Shrewsbury Town. Be interesting to see if our lone player Christian Saidi makes his debut. Might even hopefully contribute to a goal for him. And in League 2, we are going to go with Crew Alexander versus Stevenage. And to pick one, just a random one, I'm going to go with National League South. And I'm going to go with Eastbourne Borough versus Dover Athletic. So some interesting ones there. Should we start doing our predictions on that then?
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Should we start on the first one?
Who wants to go first?
Chris can go first.
Are we doing one game at a time? Yeah.
Yeah, go through which game you. Yeah, with
Okay, you call the games out again, so because I call the games out again.
Okay, so
Do the first one.
Okay, so the first one, Newcastle United, Crystal Palace.
Okay, gonna go 3-1 Newcastle.
Sam.
Okay.
Hello, Sam.
Yes, I'm here. I'm having a little think, mate.
Ground control to me, just
I'll go for 3-0 Newcastle.
Okay, I'm gonna go 2-0 Newcastle. What about Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Southampton?
I'm going to go 2-1 Southampton.
Interesting. Sam?
It'll be Wolves' 13th game if they don't win. So I'm going to say they're going to win. Wolves 2-0.
I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw. And Brentford versus Leeds United.
1-1 draw.
Sam?
Let's go for 2-1 Brentford.
Yeah, for me, I think it's going to be a Brentford win, but I know Leeds are scoring as well. So I'm going to go with a 3-2. There, 3-2. I think that'd be might be a decent game, that one. Championship then, Preston North End versus Birmingham City.
I'm going to go 1-0 Preston, because Preston are the only team ever to never concede a goal yet at this stage of a season. They've only scored 2, but they haven't conceded a single goal yet.
So they've got a mean defence and a weak attack.
Yeah, so go 1-0.
Yeah. Sam?
Let's go for 0-0.
Yeah, Birmingham come very unlucky the other night. I think they lost within like the last couple of minutes, didn't they? I'm going to go 1-0 Preston. Right, so League One then. Forest Green, Shrewsbury Town.
I fancy 2-0 Forest Green.
Sam?
I'll go 2-1 Forest Green and say they come off the bench and get a goal for Shrewsbury.
Oh.
5 points bonus if that comes in.
5 points bonus if that happens. I'm going to go with, I know what Forest Green can be like at home, so it's a bit of a fortress. I'm going to go 3-1 Forest Green. And the League Two game, which actually I've forgotten.
Yeah. You said Crewe and Stevenage, Matthew.
Crewe and Stevenage. There you go then.
1-1 draw.
1-1 draw. 1-1 draw. Okay. Sam?
I'll go for a 2-1 win Stevenage.
I'm going to go with a 0-0. I think on that one. And our final game, Eastbourne Borough versus Dover Athletic.
The big game of the weekend.
Big game of the weekend.
3-1 Dover.
1 Dover. Sam?
Okay. I'm no good with that league. I haven't really been looking at that one. I'll go for a 2-1 Eastbourne.
Yeah, okay. And I'm going to go with a 1-0 Eastbourne. Okay. So that's our predictions done for another week. So obviously I won last week. Let's see what happens this week then. See if Mr. Rawlings on his return can knock me off the perch, and or let's see if you, Sam, can score some more points this week. But when we're talking about league tables and that, we better just touch on the Fantasy Football League. So another shout out goes to Josh Hill, who's storming it at the top there at the minute.
On the race to the Shite Cup.
On the race to the other Cherries in all departments Fantasy Football League trophy, the most wanted trophy in football fantasy land, and also another well done again to James Hornby, who's been in the top 5 quite consistently lately.
And when he's not making trains, he's obviously very keen on making transfers.
Yeah, very, very, very true. Very true. Okay, so obviously for next week's cherry picking, myself, Chris, Sam, and Craig will be picking our Cherries team of the noughties. So if anybody's got any suggestions on who should be in the AFC Bournemouth team of the noughties, then drop them in the comments, drop them on the Twitter, drop them on the Facebook. And it'd be interesting to see what everybody thinks that should be in the team of the noughties. I know Chris will have a few probably the same as me. Any that spring to mind for you, Sam? Will you be in your team of the 90s next week, maybe? Naughty, sorry.
There's always one person that's come to my mind, and it was Neil Moss in goal. For strikers, Big Steve Fletcher's always going to be in there for me.
Oh, he'll be loving that, won't he, again?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there'll be the two that come straight to my head.
Yeah, no, definitely, obviously. So that's what we'll be doing next week, as well as discussing, obviously, the Forest game. I'm sure we'll be touching on that, and obviously previewing a little bit of the Brighton game as well, which will be on the Saturday. So that's it for now, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. It's nice to have Mr. Rawlings back. I'm sure you'll be back next week when you, Mr. Rawlings.
Yeah, I'll be back.
Our favourite Dorset Picker. There it is. He's just getting it in there.
There it is, yeah.
And I'm sure you'll be back as well, Sam, next week. plug in the accounting company there. And yeah, Mr. Craig, our usual host, he's been away this week, so he'll be back as well next week. So it'll be another decent episode of Cherries Picking. But until then, up the cherries in all departments.